I put on an audiobook and boom, shabam, plow, it was done. So what's the deal, pickles? How are you? I am coming on today. This is going to be, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I just don't know. It has been very interesting this past few weeks, just in life in general. I mean, 2020. So, in today's video, though, I have the update on the Pinwheel Frenzy, which you cannot see right now, but the board is totally empty because it is done. So you're going to see clips of me working on it. And I'm going to just say this up front that that's what this video is about. But I am going to put it out there if you guys want to kind of have like a heart-to-heart about, I don't even know how to say it, so I'm just going to say it the way I'm saying it. It has been very interesting for me at this time, being someone who does a lot of my work and have a number of professional relationships with non-Black people. That's what I have to say it. And friends, and really just going through this process of digesting and answering questions and listening as people process what is going on in their contributions or their contributions potentially to what is happening, and what my thoughts are on ways that they can contribute to right now and moving forward. And I do have to kind of preface this with saying that I don't believe I subscribe to the popular beliefs, and not because I don't believe in those things being an ultimate solution. However, I always question about right now, tomorrow, next week, like what does that really look like? And so I'm saying this now because I feel as though you've probably heard a million people issue statements, write statements, and sometimes, honestly, I just feel like sometimes you need to figure out, what does this mean for me in the grand scheme of things? Like, what does this mean for me? And part of my processing and digesting, and this will pretty much kind of wrap it up for me, but part of it has been very challenging for me, because as I am talking to other people, it really does require me to think about all the times in the situations where I have been discriminated against and have been the recipient of blatant racism, hidden racism, racism in corporate America, racism. I mean, I've never been a person where I let that stop me from doing anything. And if I hit a roadblock, my first inclination is to get around that sucker or get over or get under, and that's just has always been my response. So it's not that I don't believe that it exists or that I have not been the recipient of it. from other cultures, as well as being, you know, addressing certain things within my culture and within my race, for just so many different reasons. But I just don't choose to let it stop me. I just don't. And ultimately, in all these things, I'm just thankful that God gives me the faith and belief that this all was going to, you know, it'll work out for my good. And so I'm saying all that in the beginning. So if this is a conversation or you would like for me to break that down, I feel like we do have a certain mature audience for my viewers. And it is not something, you know, I don't mind addressing it. You know, girlfriend to girlfriend, sister to sister. I don't mind at all. So that's that. I just wanted to address it. And with that, you know, take care of you, you know, your head space, your heart space, what you take in, asking yourself questions to do some sort of self-check is so important. And giving yourself room and grace, as well as compassion, to process what is going on in your life. You can choose to make this a stair step beneath your feet to the next thing. And so I'm here to help in any way that I can. With that said, let's go to Pinwheel Frenzy. So you guys have seen this taking place since March. It all started with Sew the Scrap out of March. That turned into April and May, and now it is June. And this Pinwheel Frenzy is the second project that is probably going to end up being probably 4 projects, I'm thinking, total, from the same scraps that I had left over from the Freedom Bound quilt that I did. I think it honestly was 2 years ago. All of the scraps came from the leftovers, but with Pinwheel Frenzy, unlike the other, I did a pillow, now I did the quilt top, and I think the next one is going to be a quilt top as well. This one I actually added background fabric, so all of the chocolate brown fabric that you see came from some yardage that I had. When I talked to you last, though, I had a little bitty piece of the brown left, and something told me, go check your yardage, because I have like 4 bolts, and I don't know, I forgot that I had that brown from the bolts. And when I found it, y'all, I was so stinking happy. But let me tell you something. It was good that I didn't know I had it, because I used what I had up. So when I did realize I had more of it left, I was able to do borders. So in this video, you're going to see me finishing up, because you saw the quilt top last time, me doing the Scrappy border using the receipt tape. And then also adding in the final borders and getting it all done. So it is, the top is done, and I'm looking forward to you know, finishing it up. I cut some of the yardage that I had left in there and turned it into the binding strips. Like, I have the binding strips ready, and y'all, I'm just excited. So that's what you're going to see today too. One thing that I want to point out now, because I don't know if I don't intend to pop in later, and I don't know. Y'all, I record and then I flip it into a video. When I used the receipt tape, that was the very first time, and you're going to see me actually doing it, and I wanted to show the process of removing the paper. So at first, when I started removing the paper, I thought, I will never do this again, ever. Then I figured out how to remove it so that it was so easy, and then I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, it was easy. I put on an audiobook, and boom, shabam, plow, it was done. So what I figured out is, when I was removing it, and you're gonna see it in the clip, so just know I may repeat, when I took the piece of receipt tape and I folded it over. I fold the receipt tape over the seam and run my finger up and down that seam, it created more of a perforated, what are the words, like jumbled, a perforated seam, so I could just hit them, like it was like, you know, like back in the day when we used to rip out a coloring book, like that. And once I started doing that, it just went by in a breeze, so quick. So that is the tip that I have. Another thing when it comes to the receipt tape that I would offer as a tip is cut your strips longer. For some of them, I cut them like a hair longer, but it would have been a lot less stressful if it was more like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch wider than the receipt tape. Another thing that I realized is in the future, I don't think I would aim for wonky or tilted seams. I think I would just do straight up and down. It just would make it so much easier. But with that said, I want to actually do an entire top with that receipt tape. It was really nice, and it was pretty easy to work with. The most time consuming part was probably I would say removing it, but that really isn't probably true. It was fairly easy, and the fact that I already had the strips pre-cut, I literally could just sit down, grab, and sew, and it honestly was very relaxing. So let me know if you have any questions about that. In closing, the great thing about this Pinwheel Frenzy quilt is the fact that I just put it together like a puzzle, and I'm going to do that again. But when I do it again, I'm going to add a few more rules for myself so that it will move a little faster. And I can totally credit, or not credit 100% because I didn't use it, but help me with the thinking was taking a t-shirt making class either last summer or the summer before, where she kind of just, it was Miss Winnie, she kind of just put blocks and she had a standardized piecing system. I didn't use that, and if I would have used the standardized concept, it would have made it a little easier. But I think at this time, with everything being what it is, I needed that break. I needed to not have to think about anything, to just sit, stare, and like, okay, I'm gonna put those two pieces together, and I'd work out the details later. And ultimately, the pieces that I had just worked beautifully. I did not marry myself to having to leave the blocks whole. I didn't care if I cut off the blocks in order to square them up. I was not that. I was committed to completing the project, but I wasn't married to the process, in a sense. And so that just made it even better. So when I found the extra brown fabric and I was able to do a solid brown border to kind of seal off the fact of doing the top, and then add the scrappy, and then do one more border, because I did not want the pieced border to have to bump up against my binding, because I do my binding by hand. So that was something else. With that said, having the solid border flank that pieced one made it so that I did not have to worry about bumping seams. I didn't have to worry about thick seams. So that is something else that's a great tip, is if you can kind of take that piece border and bump it up against some sort of solid fabric, that is helpful. And then the ultimate MVP of this whole process was my walking foot. Let me tell you something. So a part of this not caring was that I know that my seams are not a 1/4 of an inch. The majority are, but not all of them. And I was okay with that because it didn't matter. I made sure that it was at least a 1/4 of an inch. But I haven't quite I have not taken the time to see where to make my 1/4 of an inch using my walking foot. And I believe I kind of know by eye, but I really didn't care, honestly. As long as the seam on the particular thing that I was doing was consistent, that's all I went for. And it just roomed right over everything. It was so much fun. Y'all, it was just so much fun. I was full speed ahead. And the walking foot, it just, I just removed the walking foot because now I'm going back to the king size quilt, and I need that to be 1/4 of an inch so that everything can fit, you know, appropriately. So that's that. I had fun, and I still got more to go. So what is up next is I'm going to be working on the king size quilt top. I'm so proud of myself because in May I finished more than one quilt top. Yay me. I'm going to work on this king size, and then once I finish getting this king size assembled, I will be moving on back to those scrappy pieces that I have left over to make the next top, which will be using the standardized pieces from Miss Laura's So Very Easy scrappy pieces. I have a whole container of those, which you've also seen in previous videos. I'm starting a new piece of the receipt tape, and I wanted to kind of show a little bit of what I've learned so far. One of the things is I like to cut it so that it's easier to manage, because once it kind of grows, you have to wrestle with the one side being complete and the other side being still rolled up. So what I do is I roll it loosely and I put it underneath the neck of the sewing machine, so that it's actually the side of the sewing machine kind of keeps it in check, so that you basically can just keep, you see, rolling it out like this. And then once this side grows, I roll it on that side. The second thing that I do is when I actually started so that it hangs over the edge. I've cut this longer than what I need, but at the same time I want to be able to have a clean cut, and so I just make sure that it extends. So the first piece that I pick would not be like a little piece like this. I make sure that it's, you know, enough to be on here, enough to have overhang. And then and I try to still do that first stitch fairly close to the edge, or, you know, pretty close, so that it will kind of get everything started pretty smoothly. So once I put it down, I can tell it's over, and then I'll get the second piece and secure the first stitch. And when I do this, it's easier if you have pieces that are a nice size when you're starting and ending. And I do the same thing of the overhang on the end. For my stitch length, I am doing it a shorter stitch length, but on here I'm not fully doing 1/4 of an inch. I'm trying, but it's harder to do with my presser foot because it doesn't have the same distance. But for the most part, it's 1/4 of an inch. I did this one a little bit shy, but it's okay. And there you go. That starts everything off. You keep going, keep adding and adding until you get to the end. Once it grows, I do start rolling it on this side.
What they call? Contractions? What's that? What's a contraction?
That's one.
I know, but what is it in the biblical?
What are the contractions?
In the biblical version.
Pain.
Oh.
Just going through stuff, pain. So the whole point of it was you.
That's what a contraction is?
Listen.
Baby Kegel?
Listen. Mama will explain the birds and the bees to you later.
Okay. Alright. Yeah. Alright.
So you have a baby, you going through all this stuff during your time, right? Your baby is like your dream, right? It is a dream, right? They God gave you.
New life.
Trying to change
New life, right?
Huh?
Yeah, yeah, new life. But during this time, she's just laughing at your whole.
Is rolled. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. Go ahead.
Right. Dream distraction. Fast forward, doing all.
Back to this. What exactly what he talking about?
You You.
No, it's not.
Going through all this pain, right?
Right.
All this struggle. Sometimes it's good days, sometimes you have bad days. Sometimes you're sick, sometimes you're not sick, et cetera, right? Sometimes people hating on you because they want a baby, they can't have a baby. They have a dream, they don't have a dream, they don't have a dream, or they don't have access to their dream. You know what I'm saying? So it's like all this stuff, but in the end, voila, you have a baby and all that pain, struggle, doubt, everything was worth it because you made it to the end goal, you see what I'm saying? However, you do have 90 days to get rid of the dream or let the dream go or not pursue the dream anymore, right? Mm-hmm. That's when you can get an abortion.
What happens if baby comes early?
Dreams do that, right? There's a timeline.
Earlier
You got a
than you
plan.
expect.
Yeah. That's like your dream did, right? Your $2,000 or whatever. You started on that dream, then it ain't coming. I'm changing Monday, but it still came early. It still came before that time. So that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? The only thing about, from a dream and a birth is that you at least have kind of like a guaranteed time frame. 9 months. It could come before, it could come after. But it's around that time frame.
Right, you said it.
But you still got to endure this whole time frame, though. You got to think about all these thoughts. Oh, it's summertime or COVID. You got, I don't know what kind of parent I'm going to be. I don't know if I can handle it. No one else has been oh, you want me to turn like this?
Go ahead, keep going.
Oh, man. You didn't tell me you was ready, though.
Keep going.
So that's what the conversation was mainly about how, life is like a pregnancy. Yeah. You got all this up and down, but you gotta continue to keep moving.
Right. Keep
striving.
Slowly
not give up.
Maybe slowly.
Yeah, not give
Diapers.
up. Yeah, prepare for that. That's right. Prepare for it. That's a good one too. Preparing for it. Get your diapers, right? Diaper party, but any kind of thing, whatever it is. Yeah, get your baby
diaper party.
He had a diaper party.
Look like you need to be.
He had a diaper party. He had a diaper party. He had a diaper shower. Was for men.
But you preparing for that $1 million, right?
Right.
Dream, that $1 million house. You preparing, getting all your stuff right and prepared. So boom. When the baby comes, the dream comes. All I gotta do is let everything out.
where I am in the project right now is I'm about to add this Scrappy border. One thing that I did incorrectly is I added on a solid border, which means the length of my Scrappy border, even though I overshot them at the time, they're too short. So what I've done is, I'm going to try to back up a little bit, is I laid them out the length of the quilt top just roughly, and I added on, I'm going to take you to this end. There we go. I kind of just laid them out so that they would go the length. I need them to go at least here because I do have corner pieces. So what I did is took some of those scrappy pieces that I did before, those standard scrappy block sizes, and I put them out to the length roughly that I need to complete. Like this one, I probably need to add one more here. Oh, I could do this one, and it would just kind of go out. To go beyond this, I'll cut it to length and then put the corner pieces on. So what I'm doing is I'm just pinning them to the end of the strip that I need to sew them to. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I still have the paper on the end, but the good thing about this is that I overshot them to begin with. So I'm just going to just piece like normal. I'll probably piece these together first and then add them to the strip and then cut it down to size, because all of the excess have been cut, but I have not removed the paper yet. But I am going to remove the paper before I attach it to the quilt. But I'm just doing this to ensure that I have the correct sizes together. And these are I added the additional length on the other end. I just needed to clear this line. So there we go. I'm going to go and sew these together onto here. And then once I'm done with that, I can start attaching them to the quilt top. usually when you get to this point, I'm not sure. Okay. You can't see it. Let me turn a little. I have a little overage here and the same on the other end. And because I know I want to put corner blocks on these corners, I'm going to just cut it just a little bit into this block. But after that seam, and I'll just take those 2 blocks and put them in the last little bit of the scrappy ones, because I still have probably one more scrappy project left. So I'm just gonna rough cut it with scissors just so that it'll be out of the way. I didn't do it on the other side, but I just realized that it's hanging over, and I mean, it's just easier to get it out the way. Now this one, oh, there, can actually be just, I wanted to just pull this off here and just remove that whole little, just a little bitty piece. And then just use this for something else. Is I just started from the center and worked my way out since these strips were longer than what I needed. And then I started from the center and worked my way out again when it came to the border. I am using both the clips as well as the pins. I have become, I guess, a pinner over these past couple of projects. I find that I can just go faster when I sew if I just take the time to pin them in place, because I can just kind of zoom on through. Especially because well, now it's not a big deal, but all of the blocks before were not the same size. So I was trying to just to make sure that I kind of kept everything in place. So I'll go through, sew it up, and I'll be back. So this is the second border on. I've already pressed it a little bit. I'm really glad that I did put this border on before I did this, because of course you have all the seams. There's a little bit of a buckle. I may press it a little bit more, but it made it so sewing was easy, and pressing, it can go, I could press it towards this solid border. So I'm going to do the other ends, and I think I have enough to add one more on the outside, just so that binding won't bump up against these seams. And here's the binding that I'm going to use. So yeah, I will do the other sides, cut more border, sew it on, and then this baby will be finished. Probably it'll be another 3-inch border on the outside. Maybe make it 4, but yeah, just another 3-inch on the outside, just to kind of close this in and make it so that it'll be easier when it's time for me to sew the binding. I don't want to have to sew into all of these seams. So yeah, there we go. Here we go. This is the final quilt top. I have not measured it, but I will. It's now I just have to back it and do everything else to it. it. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. I hope that you and your family are doing well. Let me know again if you want me to talk about this current climate. And if you have any questions about anything that I made or that I'm sharing in this video, I'm still loving the studio vlogs. I will be coming back with maybe some more, you know, I keep saying I'll come back with my regular vlogs, and I want to. I just think I need to make sure that, you know, that people are still watching, because I know for me, when I've been on YouTube, it has not felt the same. And maybe it's because of everything that's going on, that I love being able to offer this content as a way of entertainment to break from the other stuff. And so I'll go by, honestly, I will go by views, or even if I have one or two people, it's like, hey, we're here, we're watching, like we enjoyed, you know, the vlogs or whatever, because it's a lot of work and I already have a lot of work to do. But I don't want to leave you guys hanging. I can't leave you guys hanging. And I'm creating some like really cool stuff. So this I just keep filming. Just keep filming, okay? Just keep swimming. All right. So I'm out. I have some writing to do, and I will talk with you all hopefully sooner than later. Take care and goodbye.
If I can't have you, I don't want you to have anyone. And if you don't want me, there's something wrong with them, right? Maybe I got problems that I don't tell anyone. Have I lost my perception? Feel like I wanna do something wrong now. Packing all your belongings. Say you wanna take some time, but if you say we'll meet again, why'd you have to take everything